Hey everybody, thought I would come outside again and record this week's video since it's still been lovely out here. Um, Hopefully the wind doesn't pick up too much that you can't hear me. So this week's been a little better. Oh, we got a plane going over. This week's been a little better. Bit of a struggle still because we've had some car issues, electrical, like issues with the whole dash. If I'm squinting a lot and squeezing my face like this, it's because I feel like I gotta sneeze. But like our dash goes wonky, and the speedometer and all the gauges go to zero, and it gives us all these warning lights. So yeah, it's in the shop today to hopefully see if they can fix it, and if our warranty coverage we purchased will cover it. I hope, fingers crossed, because Lord knows I don't have the money to be spending on that. But otherwise, this week's been pretty quiet, which has been good for my health. Just taking things easy and relaxing. Trying to get some work done. I have to do some design work today for my cousin-in-law's 10th anniversary that I talked about last week. So I got to get started on that. For dinner this week, it's been pretty low-key. Sunday we did paninis because those are pretty easy to do. If you've got like a George Foreman grill or something, you can just quickly, basically make a sandwich and go to town. I did a BLT Club panini. I think my wife and my mom did kind of a ham and cheese panini. And then Monday we did beef stroganoff, my great aunt's recipe. I was feeling a little down on Monday, so I needed a little pick-me-up. I needed some comfort food. And that always brings me back to sitting in my great aunt's house. It tastes just like hers, literally. I think I'm lucky that I went to their house growing up almost every weekend. My parents would drop me off on a Friday evening, and I would be there until Sunday afternoon, almost every weekend. I love spending time there. Not a lot of kids to play with, not a lot of stuff to always do. They would take me to parks when they could, but we would just enjoy time in the house. My great aunt taught me, she was the artist. She's the one that really I got all of my artistic talent and desire from. But she would, let me play with her oils, her pastels. She would, give me an old shoe divider box thing, that had multiple compartments, and she taught me how to make, flower paste, and gave me old scraps of fabric and let me create like a little house out of it. God, I had that for years. And then we would watch, Bob Ross, and we would watch Julia Child, and they loved cooking and baking. So we would sometimes bake. Not always. I didn't always get to bake with them. I would be in the kitchen while they would cook things, and and so I kind of just picked up, how they would cook things. You know, she typically would always sift her flour. So if there's ever flour being used, I know in any of her recipes, I know I would need to sift it to get it just like hers, or what kind of beef she typically used, or what kind of, for her fruit salad, what kind of fruit she typically used. I'd go grocery shopping with her, stuff like that. But they also went camping a lot, and I got to go with them. They were good Sammers. The Mini Wheelers was their chapter, and I'd go out weekends with them on camping. They also loved to sew. My great aunt loved to sew more than my grandmother. They lived together. In case I wasn't clear there. So I got a little bit of my sewing, love of sewing from them as well. But yeah. So I had beef stroganoff on Monday. just like hers, and it brings me right back to my childhood and being in their home, and I'm so happy that I found that I have her recipes, and that one in particular, and that I was able to make it just like hers. I didn't record it, making it for the video podcast because I was like, oh, I have the video somewhere, which I'm gonna put at the end of this. I'm gonna trim it down though. It's an old one that I had broadcast live on Facebook before, but the quality's not that great. So I'm gonna pare it down and try to add some clips to it. It might be late getting out though. By the time you guys see this, might be a later episode just because this weekend is so packed with reunion and Pride weekend. So I'm gonna hopefully try and work on some of that tomorrow. Preemptive strike. And then let's see, Wednesday or Tuesday we were supposed to have burrito bowls, but I wasn't feeling it, so instead we had burgers and brats. And Stone Mill has this spice. I think it's called American hamburger or American pub hamburger spice or something. I'd have to go look. I'd never used it before because when I went to go use it, I still needed to open the seal. But it was actually really good. I mean, it kind of has a little bit of a barbecue and bacon smell to it, and I'm not big on barbecue. This was actually really good, and sugar, it's sweeter. God, those hamburgers were so good. It was just, ground turkey and then a bunch of that spice just mixed into the mixture. We didn't sprinkle any on top after. We just mixed it right in with the meat. And God, those were good. I had 4 and I shouldn't have, but they were so good I couldn't stop. And then Wednesday, last night, we ended up having, again, we were supposed to have the burrito bowls, but the way that they were slow cooker burrito bowls, and you have to have the chicken in there for 8 hours. And I'm not sure if that's thawed or frozen. I'm assuming thawed. Most recipes you want them thawed. And my chicken wasn't even thawed yet. So I took the chicken out, and instead we had leftover burgers, and we shredded the chicken and added barbecue because Michaela's been wanting barbecued pulled pork sandwiches. So we didn't have pork, so instead we just did barbecued pulled chicken sandwiches. And I think she liked those. I was in a meeting last night, so I don't know what her thoughts were on that. And now tonight we're going to be having a cranberry pecan chicken salad for sandwiches. So we'll be doing that. I'm going to prep those eventually. We're just going to use canned chicken. For chicken salads, I usually like to use canned chicken. It's just easier. And then tomorrow night, we're going to have breakfast for dinner. We're going to have what we call in our house Lacamaga French toast. Camp Lacamaga up near Scandia, Minnesota. Or I think it's Scandia. Or Maria and St. Croix. I don't remember which one. Maybe they're by each other. I don't know. But they would make it a lot for the different conferences and things there. So Amy has the recipe for that. So we're going to make Lacamaga French toast. So basically what it is it's like a French toast bake with Texas toast and then the egg mixture, and then you bake it. And I think you can make it the night before, which is helpful especially when you got a big group. You can make a bunch of batches and then just throw them in the oven and just keep them going. So we're going to have that tomorrow night. And then none of us are home Saturday and Sunday. So that'll be interesting to see what we come up with. I still have to work on next week's food schedule and figuring out what we're going to have and make. So that'll be a chore. I should try and work on that today or tomorrow as well. But other than that, my anxiety and depression's been a little better. Father's Day was really tough. But hence Monday and eating the beef stroganoff. But other than that, the week's been going by fairly quickly, which has been good. And I haven't gotten as much done as I had wanted to with some of my projects, but that's okay. I got a little bit of time, I think. So, pretty short video at the moment. I'm going to try and leave more room for the beef stroganoff video at the end. Um, so enjoy beef stroganoff. It's my great aunt's recipe. I don't know where she got it, um, but it's good. Some pointer tips, though. The recipe I have and the way I make it is for a serving of 8 because we love beef stroganoff. Um, but you could cut it in half. Um, and then you can use canned mushrooms or fresh. Just if you're using fresh, don't cook your beef as long in the first stage. You'll cook your beef and then you'll add your mushrooms, garlic, and onion. Don't cook them as long because you will need to cook your onions a little longer to get them to shrink down. Or just pre-cook your onions and then throw them in. And then when you take the beef, onion, mushroom mixture out of the pan, if you use a slotted spoon so that you can, and then tap out as much of the drippings as possible so they remain in the because you will be getting a thick kind of gravy. Try and keep as much of that in the pan as possible. And then at that point, after I take that out, I move everything to a stock pot just because there's so much, and usually the skillet is so full from all the different liquids you have to put in there. You're putting in my recipe, you're putting in like 5 cups of beef broth. So if you're just doing a 4, you're fine. You can keep everything in a skillet. But if you're making a larger batch, you do need to eventually move it to a stock pot. Then something that I did with this last one, usually I'll cook it and then serve it right away. And it's still a little thin. It hasn't thickened up as well as I'd like. What I did this time, because I had to make it ahead of time, because I had to run and pick up people from work. So what I did is after I added the sour cream and white wine and just mixed it together so that it was all combined, I turned it down to simmer, down on below, let it sit there for just a few minutes to heat through until it's bubbled a little bit. Then I turned the heat off and took it off of the heat, put a lid on it, set it aside. And that was at about 3, I would have to say, I think. Or was that before I went and got Michaela? I think that was before. So actually that was like at 2, and we don't eat until 5 typically. So I let it just sit there. And that heat helped it slowly cook still and thicken. And by the time I went to eat it, it was a nice, thick gravy type sauce. So just let it sit there and then just let it thicken on its own for a little bit until it's to the consistency you want for yours. Some people like a thinner sauce. I like a thicker sauce. And then I just cooked up the egg noodles and off we went. So I'll put that video at the end. Quality's not the greatest. I'll try and clean it up as best as I can. But enjoy, and we'll see you next time.